She told me, "She's my everything, you're just my boyfriend." So I packed her bags, shut the door, and later watched her cry and beg for a second chance to return. I am 28, and for almost 3 years I truly believed I was building something real with a woman who was 26 at the time. When we first met, everything felt so right. We had those magical late-night drives where the roads were quiet and our voices were the only sounds filling the air. We talked about everything, from the silliest memories to the deepest dreams, and I remember thinking to myself that maybe, just maybe, I had finally found the person I could build a life with. We planned trips together, we talked about the future, and in those moments I felt safe, loved, and hopeful. But over time, something started to change, and it wasn't because of big fights or major issues between us. The change came slowly from outside, in the shape of a friendship that grew bigger and bigger until it overshadowed our relationship completely. She had a best friend, the kind of friend who always demanded her attention, who always needed to be first. At the beginning, I didn't think too much about it. Everyone deserves friends, and I never wanted to be that controlling partner who tells someone who they can and cannot see. I thought giving her space to enjoy her friendships was a healthy thing, but what I didn't realize was that this friend would soon become the center of her universe, while I was slowly being pushed to the side. It began with little things. We would make plans for dinner, and out of nowhere she would send me a text. "Hey, my friend called me. She really needs me tonight. Let's do dinner another day." First, I let it go. Of course, emergencies happen, and friends should be there for each other. But soon I started to notice that these emergencies were hardly emergencies at all. Most of the time, it was just her friend wanting to hang out, watch a show, or chat. And every time, our plans came second. I tried to ignore the sinking feeling in my chest, but it was hard not to notice that I was always the one being replaced. When I finally brought it up, hoping she would reassure me, she just laughed. And then she said the words that cut deeper than any argument ever could. "You're my boyfriend, but she's my everything. Don't compare the two." Hearing that made my heart sink. What did that make me then? If I was just a boyfriend while someone else was her everything, where did I truly stand in her life? I could accept a best friend. I could accept not being first all the time. But when the person you love looks you in the eye and tells you that someone else is more important than you, it leaves a mark that doesn't fade easily. And things got worse. Her best friend wasn't content with just being the priority. She went out of her way to undermine me. At first, her comments were disguised as jokes. "You're lucky she even dates you." I smiled, pretended it didn't bother me, and tried to keep the peace. But those jokes turned into insults. "She deserves better than you. I don't even know what she sees in you." These weren't jokes anymore. They were straight attacks on my worth. And the worst part was that my girlfriend never defended me. She would sit there in silence, sometimes even chuckle along, as if it were harmless fun. But to me, it wasn't fun. It was disrespect. And when the person you love won't stand up for you, it eats away at your confidence and your sense of belonging. I tried to convince myself not to overreact. I told myself that she had known her friend for years, that she just wanted to avoid conflict, that maybe this was just their dynamic. But after hearing the same insults over and over, I couldn't stay quiet forever. One night, when her friend once again said, "You're not good enough for her," something in me snapped. I looked straight at her and said calmly, "If you can't respect me, don't expect me to respect you." The room went silent. Her friend smirked, almost as if she thought she had finally gotten what she wanted. But what really shook me was my girlfriend's reaction. Instead of supporting me, instead of at least acknowledging that I had a point, she turned on me. She jumped up and shouted, "You can't talk to my friend like that." And then, as if that wasn't enough, she added the words that felt like a knife straight to the chest. "She's right. I probably do deserve better than you." In that moment, everything changed. I wasn't just battling with a toxic friend anymore. I was standing in front of a partner who had decided that her loyalty belonged elsewhere. She even demanded that I apologize to her friend. Imagine that, me apologizing to the person who had been belittling me for months. I looked at her, calm but firm, and said, If you expect me to sacrifice my self-respect to keep your friend happy, then this relationship is already over. She laughed at first, thinking I was joking. But when she realized I meant every word, her tone changed. She went from angry to desperate, begging me not to end things over one argument. But I knew this wasn't just one argument. This was the boiling point after months of disrespect, silence, and betrayal. I told her to pack her things, the gifts, the clothes, everything she had at my place. I helped her gather her bags, and at 9 that evening, I walked her to the door. She cried, begged, promised she would change, but I had already seen the truth. She had shown me where I stood, and it wasn't beside her. I closed the door behind her, leaned against it, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a strange kind of relief. But that was only the beginning. The days after she left were not easy. I would be lying if I said I didn't feel an empty space in my life. For nearly 3 years, she had been a constant presence. Waking up without her texts or calls, coming home to a quieter apartment, and going to sleep without that familiar voice on the other end of the line felt strange. It wasn't just the loss of a relationship. It was the loss of routine, the loss of a vision I had built for the future. There were nights when I questioned if I had overreacted. I asked myself whether I should have tried harder, been more patient, or looked for a way to compromise. But every time those thoughts entered my mind, I would hear her voice repeating that sentence. She's my everything. You're just my boyfriend. And that reminder alone was enough to push away any doubt. Slowly, I began to rebuild. I poured my energy into work, into friends who actually valued me, and into simple things I had neglected while trying to keep a relationship alive that was already sinking. I went back to the gym, I started reading again, and I even picked up a new hobby that gave me a sense of accomplishment. It wasn't easy to heal, but day by day, the wound felt less painful. What surprised me most was the sense of peace that came from knowing I had finally chosen myself. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't competing for someone's attention or begging to be seen. I was just living for me. Weeks passed, and I heard little from her. There were a few random messages, at first short, confused texts asking if I was really serious about ending things. I didn't reply, not because I wanted to be cruel, but because I knew that answering would only pull me back into a cycle I had already escaped. Silence became my shield, and in that silence, I found strength. But as time went on, her messages changed. They grew longer, more emotional, more desperate. She told me she missed me, that she couldn't believe I walked away so quickly, that she never thought I would actually shut the door on us. Then came the realization that her best friend, the person she once called her everything, was not standing by her side the way she imagined. Apparently, the friendship that she had put above our relationship began to crack once I was out of the picture. Without me there as a target to undermine, the friend's true colors started to show. Arguments began between them, jealousy crept in, and slowly that everything fell apart. And when it did, she came running back to the person she had taken for granted all along, me. I still remember the day she showed up at my door. It had been months since we last spoke. I was sitting on the couch reading when I heard a knock. I opened the door and there she was, eyes red, hands shaking, tears streaming down her face. She didn't even try to pretend she was okay. She just looked at me and whispered, "I made a mistake. Please, can we talk?" For a moment, I just stood there, taking it in. Part of me wanted to reach out, to hold her, to tell her that we could start over. But another part of me, the stronger part, remembered every insult, every dismissal, every time she chose someone else over me. She tried to explain herself, saying that she had been confused, that she thought her friend would always be there, that she never meant to hurt me the way she did. She told me she had realized I was the only person who truly loved her, the only one who had her back. Her words poured out like a flood, and with every sentence she took a step closer, reaching for my hands, begging for a second chance. But I couldn't forget that this same woman had once looked at me with cold eyes and declared that I was just her boyfriend, while someone else held the title of everything. So I stood there, calm and collected, and said softly, "I hope you find the happiness you're looking for, but it won't be with me." Her face crumpled. She dropped to the floor right there in my hallway, crying so hard that her words came out in choked whispers. She begged. She promised. She swore she would do anything to prove she had changed. But my heart had already closed that chapter. I had given her all my love once, and she had shattered it without hesitation. I wasn't going to hand her another chance to break me again. I closed the door, just like I had months before. And as her crying faded into the distance, I realized something important. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't fighting to keep someone in your life. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is letting them go and never looking back.